You won't believe what happened outside Buckingham Palace. A woman used to power, privilege, and getting her way, Isabella Hartley, thought she could challenge the unshakable discipline of a British royal guard. But when she pulled a stun gun on him, the crowd held its breath, and what followed shocked the world. Stay with us as we uncover every twist, every clash, and every lesson from this unforgettable encounter. Comment below where you're watching from, hit the like button, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss another powerful story of honor, discipline, and true strength. Isabella Hartley had spent most of her adult life commanding rooms, wielding influence, and bending circumstances to her will. At 48, she was the executive assistant to Marcus Sterling, the formidable CEO of Sterling International, one of London's most powerful corporate empires. Isabella's name was known in elite circles, not as a mere assistant, but as the gatekeeper, the woman whose word could open or close the most important doors. Her steel gray Armani suit, polished heels, diamond tennis bracelet, and Swiss watch weren't just fashion, they were her armor. Wherever she went, heads turned, and people made way. She was a force, and she knew it. On this bright morning, Isabella walked briskly toward Buckingham Palace, cutting through a crowd of tourists. To her, they were a sea of distractions. Families laughing, children posing for pictures, elderly couples pointing at historic facades. She muttered under her breath, "Don't these people have jobs?" Her perfectly manicured fingers tapped impatiently on her designer handbag, her frustration barely concealed. She was on a tight schedule, and this crowd was simply in her way. But as she moved forward, her eyes fell on a figure that caught her attention, a royal guard. Dressed in his iconic red uniform, with a towering bearskin hat, the guard stood motionless, rifle in hand, as centuries of tradition required. For the first time that morning, Isabella paused. Here was something, or rather someone, who did not automatically shift at her approach, who did not react to her presence. Her brows knitted in irritation. How dare he ignore her? She was Isabella Hartley, and thus a simple morning stroll began. Its transformation into an unforgettable confrontation. Determined to command attention, Isabella adjusted her blazer, straightened her shoulders, and approached the guard. "Excuse me," she began, her voice sharp, and cutting through the low murmur of the crowd, there was no reaction. The guard remained fixed, his eyes set on some distant point, his expression unflinching. Tourists nearby slowed their steps, sensing the shift in energy. "I saw you," Isabella continued, her voice growing louder. "You were watching me as I walked past. Don't pretend you weren't." She was fabricating an accusation, as she often did in the corporate world to apply pressure. But here, the tactic fell flat. The guard's stillness was impenetrable. An elderly couple nearby exchanged worried glances. The man, a retired veteran, instinctively moved closer, his military senses alert. His wife clutched his arm gently, whispering, "Dear, maybe we should step in." But the old soldier shook his head, watching carefully, reading the subtle tension. Isabella, undeterred, stepped even closer, now almost invading the guard's personal space. "Do you have any idea who I am? I can have your superior on the phone in minutes. One word from me, and you'll be explaining this to people who actually matter in this city." The tourists around them were now fully invested, their casual interest turning to concern. Children were pulled closer by their parents. Phones began to record. The air thickened with a sense of something about to break. Isabella's face flushed with anger. Her threats had always worked. They had secured promotions, crushed rivals, and cleared paths. But here, against this silent figure, they were as useless as whispers in a storm. She pulled out her phone, waving it dramatically. "Shall I call the press? Palace guard harasses female visitor would make quite a headline, don't you think?" Still, nothing. The Royal Guard's discipline was not just ceremonial. It was forged from real military service. He had faced real dangers in Afghanistan, seen brothers lost, survived fire and chaos. A screaming executive was no match for that. Isabella's frustration boiled over. She reached into her designer handbag, fingers brushing against a small leather case. Inside was a sleek black stun gun, a gift from her boss, meant for protection. Until now, she had never used it. But now, she gripped it tightly, feeling a surge of power return. The veteran in the crowd took a sharp breath, his wife's hand tightening on his arm. "She's going too far," he whispered. Without a word, Isabella activated the stun gun. Its faint crackle filled the air, the sound causing a ripple of alarm through the crowd. The veteran took a small step forward, but before he could act, Isabella lunged forward, pressing the device against the guard's uniform. A spark leapt, a burst of electricity surged. The guard's body tensed, muscles contracting involuntarily. For a split second, Isabella's eyes gleamed with triumph. She had won. She had forced a reaction. But what happened next would leave her breathless. With controlled precision, the guard's white-gloved hand shot out, gripping Isabella's wrist. His training took over, not with anger, but with the quiet strength of someone who had faced true danger. The stun gun clattered to the ground, its light fading. Isabella gasped, twisting, trying to free herself, her carefully styled hair falling loose, her voice rising to a shriek. "How dare you? Do you know who I am?" she screamed, her words thin and brittle against the soldier's unyielding calm. Palace security, alerted by the commotion, began pushing through the crowd. The tourists watched in stunned silence, many recording on their phones. The veteran stepped forward, his face grim. "You just assaulted a member of His Majesty's Armed Forces," he said, his voice steady and heavy with the weight of experience. Isabella's threats came pouring out. "You're finished. I will end your career. Marcus Sterling will hear about this. You have no idea who you're dealing with." But the royal guard, steady as stone, simply waited. Security reached Isabella, gently but firmly, pulling her from the guard's grip. Her expensive suit was rumpled, her blouse askew, her makeup smudged from the struggle. The contents of her designer purse spilled across the stones. Credit cards, keys, a gold compact, all glittering uselessly under the morning sun. Handcuffs clicked into place. Isabella's voice cracked. "This is a misunderstanding. I was defending myself. He harassed me." But security had seen the whole thing. So had the veteran, the crowd, and the ever-watching cameras. The truth was recorded, undeniable. The royal guard adjusted his posture, straightened his uniform, and resumed his post. His chest still bore the faint scorch mark from the stun gun, but his bearing was untouched. He stood tall, unshaken, a symbol of discipline and service. As Isabella was led away, her heels scraping the ground, the veteran turned to his wife. "That," he murmured softly, "is why these men stand guard. Not just to protect the palace, but to uphold principles people like her will never understand." The tourists began to disperse, their conversations low, reflective. A lesson had been witnessed, that true strength lies not in power or wealth, but in the quiet, steadfast dedication to duty. In the hours that followed, videos of the incident spread across social media. News outlets picked up the story, entitled "Executive Assaults, Royal Guard at Buckingham Palace." Public opinion turned swiftly. Comment sections overflowed with support for the guard and condemnation for Isabella. Marcus Sterling, informed of his assistant's actions, released a statement distancing himself and the company. Isabella's career, once built on influence and reputation, crumbled in mere hours. She had crossed a line that no amount of connections or money could erase. But beyond the headlines and the viral clips, there was a deeper message that resonated, especially with the older generation who understood the cost of service. The Royal Guard represented more than ceremonial pageantry. He stood as a living symbol of discipline, respect, and sacrifice. For many veterans, watching the story unfold, it was a reminder of values they had carried through their own years of service. In homes across the country, people sat with their families, recounting the story. Grandparents explained to grandchildren why the guard stood so still, why he did not lash out, why he maintained his post even under attack. It became a conversation not just about a shocking moment, but about character, honor, and the meaning of true strength. As the sun set over Buckingham Palace that evening, the guard at the post was relieved, his shift ending quietly, without fanfare. He walked away not as a viral sensation, but as a soldier who had done his duty, who had held firm in the face of provocation. And in doing so, he had reminded the world that some values stand unshaken, no matter the challenge.